Your parents feel it's their duty to raise you, upbringing. That's their duty. It's not their, of course they love you, but it's not their duty to show you love. In fact, if they show you love, they might. So we grew up, we're expecting harshness and correction from people in authority. And then we also people will not. So we even had the expectation that when you leave home, you're now going to suffer. Okay, we were prepared for that journey. But now, this younger generation, as I said, even in the home, you don't just speak to them to correct them or to give them instruction. You will not have a good relationship with your children. So everything has changed, even in the home. You have to engage them as adults. You have to respect if they want to demand respect. They are doing that in the home. You can imagine what they will expect in the workplace. You're not even my parents. Who are you to speak to me that way? Who are you to treat me? Even my parents who can expect it, don't do it. So everything has changed culturally. So there are cultures shift. That's what people don't understand.
Let me put the question this way, because of something you said just now. How do we draw the line between refusing not to accept being spoken to in any form or in a way that you don't find pleasing, and drawing the line between that and maybe being seen to be insultive, or they use in the business world to categorize it. Maybe you have used inappropriate languages for those that are in the workplace.
I mean, so the line is there's what's the rule called now? I think it's called the reasonable observer rule. Watching and listening to your interaction to your subordinate.
Yes.
Would that stranger think it is offensive? Would that stranger think it is inappropriate?
Okay.
So you can use that rule. The other thing you can do, which growing up we used to be taught, and our religions teach us that as well, treat others the way you would like to be treated, right? Okay. Do unto others the way you would like done unto yourself. But now, when you are in the workplace, especially in cities, you are working with people who are so different from you. If you treat them the way you would like to be treated, you are not treating them according to their own culture, what is respectful in their own culture. So there's something called the platinum rule now. The other one is called the golden rule, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way. So when you're engaging with somebody, these young people, ask them, okay, how do I get the best out of you? How do you like to be supervised? And one of them will say, oh, please supervise me closely, instruct me. I do well with that. The other one will say, oh, please just brief me about what you need and then leave me. Don't worry. You don't have to worry, sir. I will come back. If you have any problems, I will come back to you. Somebody else will say, oh, please always praise me. Anything I do well, praise me. If you praise me, it will motivate me to do someone else. Another one will say, oh, please correct me. I like correction. We're dealing with so many different types of that generation, then breed completely. They're not like us when we were young.
Okay.
Sometimes you think when I was your age. No, they are different from us when we were young. So they're almost like a different race. You have to ask them, okay, how can I motivate you? How do you want to be spoken to? When you do something wrong, how should I address it?
Okay, so let me speak for CEOs now. Let me speak on behalf of a lot of CEOs who believe that working with a lot of millennials and Gen Zs who want to be given accolade for the little work. So how do we draw that line for a lot of older generations who have come from a very tough working environment, and they are looking at exhibiting the same working environment for the people who work for them, right? And you said something about treat people the way they want to be treated. I don't know if that's a fair thing for any organization to specifically begin to treat everybody the way they want to be treated. How do we now create a balance in a working environment?
Okay, so two very interesting questions. So let me take the first one. The first one is that any CEO who tries to manage these millennials the way he or she was managed, will not retain staff.
Word.
You will find it hard for 6 months. You'll find it very, very hard, because in our old day we were, as I said, we were working to earn an income.
Okay.
These days, these young people, they feel that all they need to do is find some way to earn an income. It doesn't have to be through a job with you. Okay, you are just their current employer. They are freelance. You are just their current client. You can move on to the next client at any time. And while they are working for you, they might be doing their own thing.
Okay.
So it's completely different. You will find bosses who haven't adapted cannot retain young people. They can't keep them on staff, no matter how much money they are paying. They would rather leave for better treatment than stay for more pay, which is completely the opposite of us. If you pay me more, I'll be ready to accept the abuse.
As much the impact of the things you have said this morning are very, very important. But before we begin to explore more on the harassment and discrimination, I wanted us to really talk about these things. What is the place of the human resource person in an organization in creating this balance? Because I spoke with someone over the weekend about a comment somebody made, and I was not too happy with the level of the thoughts of the line of this particular person. And somebody said HR are another breeds of human beings entirely. But then what is their role in this time and age where everybody wants to have a sense of belonging and ownership, and also a sense and be treated with a form of respect?
Yeah, so the role of HR is really critical. And we do have the HR professional body, CIPM, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. And I think more and more employers are trying to insist that if you are going to be an HR manager, you must be a member of that body, because then they can make sure you know your job. Your job is not just to pay salaries.
Okay.
And tell people when they can go on leave. Okay. Your job is to make sure that you have the people working for your organization are trained and motivated enough to do the sort of work that the organization is paying them to do, and to do it well. Okay. So whatever it is that needs to happen to get your staff to that point, that is the job of HR. And including engaging with your managers, training your managers, your supervisors, how to get the best, how to motivate their staff, not with money. Money only motivates a little bit. With respectful treatment, So that's the big job of HR. Many HR managers do not realize yet, too many, that is their role. It's not so hard. You have your policies that are equitable. Your policies are equitable, but the treatment has to be different. You have to differentiate the treatment, but the policies can be equitable.
All right, this is the big question on Women Radio 91.7, 9:30, and we're talking this morning with Habiba Balogun, the organization effectiveness consultant and diversity champion on harassment and discrimination of women in the workplace. Too well to be part of this conversation this morning. Send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070-317-56537 to be part of the big question here this morning.
We are Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families.
Hello, great people. I believe you're keeping it real. It is a brand new day of great possibilities to do more than you did yesterday. Oh yeah? You sure need something extra to make you do things differently. That's why your preferred internet service provider will always offer you more data to exceed your own expectations. Of course, I'm talking about SpectraNet, the pioneer of 4G LTE in Nigeria. If you haven't been using SpectraNet, don't wait anymore, and I'll tell you why. Okay, here it is. SpectraNet keeps bringing amazing internet experience the way you love it. Yes, SpectraNet has just launched the all-new Do More Spectacular data plans, such as Unified Value Plans and Mega Value Plans, which are fully packed with irresistible data plus Do More benefits. Unified Value Plans offer Do More benefits of free unlimited morning time data from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Wow, that simply totals up to 120 hours of free unlimited data between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. in a month. But never mind, if nighttime is your preferred time for a browsing experience, our new bundles have got you covered with Mega Value Plans, packed with a total of 210 hours of free unlimited night browsing in a month from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's simply spectacular, isn't it? Either way, you've got yourself a deal. Yes, it feels great to let you know that both Unified Value value and mega value plans have monthly validity, and they come at various unbeatable prices starting from as low as 3,070 naira. You heard me right? Both plans start from as low as 3,070 naira. Yes, SpectraNet is your innovative service provider that will always give you more to do more. Don't wait any further. Visit the nearest outlet or www.spectranet.com.ng. SpectraNet, do more.
I beg you, where Koro dey? Koro not dey for Lagos, Joe. Government just dey take am, they deceive people now. No Koro for anywhere. Na malaria.
Coronavirus is real. More people are dying, more are infected. Koro is still in our midst. Easing the lockdown does not mean that the fight is over. Use your mask, wash your hands, social and physical distance. Stay at home if you have no business outside. Coronavirus is real.
This is still the big question on Women Radio. FM 91.7. If you are just joining the conversation here this morning, you missed a little bit, but we have been speaking with regards to harassment and discrimination of women in the workplace. My name is Daniel Adaja, and I have over via Zoom this morning Habiba Balogun, Organization Effectiveness Consultant and Diversity Champion, with me on the radio this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us, Habiba. Now let's talk on this particular conversation on harassment and discrimination. Do you think that the Nigerian workspace have the fundamental understanding of what harassment and discrimination is?
Well, from our research, no, they don't. When we are conducting the research, every time we're talking about it, we actually had to share the definitions. And then sometimes there'll be a discussion about the definition. The way you just asked, what's the line between to supervise somebody and correct the person and bullying the person, or trying to show somebody you're attracted to them and then harassing them? Where is it? Number one, they didn't understand the definition, and number two, they didn't know where the line was between the two.
Okay. This is interesting, but I'd like for you to, because you said like a lot of people do not understand the definition, so I'd like for you to like give us the definition from the perspective of the research works you have conducted on harassment and discrimination.
Okay, yeah, I'll be very happy to do that.
Yes.
So let's start with bullying. Bullying is the most prevalent form of harassment in our Nigerian workplaces. And in fact, it affects men more than women.
Amazing.
60%. Yeah. It affects 65% of men, because we had 50-50 responses in our research. Okay. 65% of men reported they had been bullied compared to 51% of women. But that is a lot. 51% of women is a lot. And offensive treatment. So it's in an offensive way. It's vindictive, it's cruel, it's intimidating, it's malicious, it humiliates the person. It makes the person feel less than human. So that's what bullying is. And that's the most prevalent form of harassment we have in our Nigerian workforces. Okay. And of course, next, we have sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is terrible because 1 in 2 people in our workplaces have experienced it. And sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances. I think most people know what sexual harassment is. So, and it can be in so many forms. It doesn't have to be touch. It can be the way they talk to you, they look at you, the gesture, asking you to do something in return, okay, or asking that you will get a promotion in return for, accepting sexual advances. Okay. So that's sexual harassment. And then harassment in general. So all these things I'm going to talk about, they all fall under the umbrella of harassment. It's anything that is unwanted by the person receiving it, something that affects the dignity, their dignity. So I'm a woman, I'm at work, and I'm being treated in a way that I don't want, and it's affecting my dignity. It's affecting my mental health. It's affecting my ability to do my work. Yeah. It's affecting my relationships at work. Okay. And finally, discrimination, which is to distinguish and treat one person less favorably than they should be treated compared to the others. So those are the definitions. And when you carry out all of these things and somebody reports and then they are sacked, that's called victimization. So victimization is actually illegal. Okay. If somebody reports that you harassed them or you bullied them or you sexually harassed them or you discriminated against them.
Yes.
And the employer decides to sack the person or reduce the person's pay or change the person's appraisal or not let the person go on training.
Yeah.
That is called victimization. It's illegal and you get into trouble. A lawyer can you get into trouble for doing that. So those are the definitions.
Now, how early should the conversation of harassment and discrimination be heard among employees? How early in an organization should this be? Should it be like a starter introductory pack for employers and employees?
Well, I mean, in places, in big organizations, you will find that part of the onboarding process is one of the things they talk about when they talk about the organization.
Yes.
When they talk about who we are, our values and whatever, one of the things they always talk about is their policy on harassment and discrimination.
Okay.
So it should be standard, and it should be something that you refresh their minds every year.
Yes.
You get a reminder that, remember, it's not just corruption, paying bribe. It's not just stealing. Also, harassing and discriminating against your colleagues or your subordinates is also not acceptable in this organization. Yeah, and can be sanctioned.
Now, there was a tweet I saw recently on Twitter of a person who commented on a post. I can't remember if it was a bank that made that post or an organization. We said, there was internship opportunities for females specifically, and the person highlighted, why they are saying there is internship for females, and the harassment that comes with it, how they harass women. Even a lady went ahead to talk about how she was able to do internship in 2 different banks, all because she was able to agree with that. But I want you to look at this from my next question from the angle of culture, something that has always been existing before time and had always been allowed to be swept under the carpet. How do we have the conversation with those who have been allowed to do this for a long time or have not even seen the wrong in this? They say statements like, especially from the men's angle now, you hear men say things like, I'm not doing this person. She's not old enough to even be my first daughter is my last born is our age mate. You hear things like that. And even when these girls are like, I'm not comfortable with what you are doing, they still be like, what's wrong with you? You're trying to be all tough. This is a play environment. How do we begin to have a conversation to get these people to realize that these things are wrong?
No, I think managers, supervisors, bosses, they became successful because they're intelligent. They're intelligent, okay. They are hardworking, okay? And in general, and I've spoken to some of the men about this,
okay.
And I asked them, why would you behave this way? They said because they can get away with it. That was their answer. Because they can get away with it. So when your staff policies, when your organizational policies, when the laws in the country, when the labor law tells you that you cannot do this, and if it's reported behavior and you repeat it, you can lose your job, you can go to jail and so on, and they can no longer get away with it. They stop. I had a boss that I liked very much. This is about 15 years ago. He used to tell a lot of dirty jokes. And in that time, it was accepted. You know how it is in a male-dominated environment. They tell a lot of dirty jokes. Everybody accepted it. And then the born-again movement became very strong. And they frowned on anything that anybody said that hinted at anything like that. And all of a sudden, it was no longer, the culture was no longer accepting those sort of comments from people who call themselves Christian. And the man just said he will want to make a joke and he say, you can't tell that kind of joke anymore, and he will keep quiet. So once the environment no longer tolerates the behavior, the behavior will stop. It's just behavior. These are not bad people necessarily.
How do we use the law in particular to allow these narratives to change? Because this is a country where there is a lot of ineffectiveness in the implementations of law. But in places like work environment where it's said, they're supposed to be, and work environment even differs. I'm thinking right now of how the person being treated in a bank would be different from how a worker who works in a water factory would be treated. But the law should apply to both of these parties. We might see a lot more effective in a bank than we would see in a water factory. So for the woman who has to juggle around making a living, being successful in starting from such low, from that kind of level, how then can the law assist in ensuring that we change this narrative?
Yeah. So that is where we really need a lot of advocacy, because the law that can help us change the narrative in the workplace itself.
Okay.
So sort of prevent it from happening and make the environment not conducive for that sort of behavior is our employment law. And our employment law is the Labor Act. Yeah. The Labor Act itself does not specifically, address these sort of inappropriate and offensive behaviors. It does not. What has happened is the National Industrial Court, Order 14, has identified those behaviors. And so if somebody is victimized by their employer, they lose their job, for example, they can go to the Nigerian National Industrial Court and get compensation. If it's they can force your employer to take you back. If it's in a private sector, they might get you some monetary compensation. But that is after the fact you've suffered the effects. If we want to change things within the organizations, the workplaces themselves, we need that Nigerian Labor Act to be updated. It's very outdated. It hasn't been updated since it was first.
I'm gonna have to ask you to ask for your final words on this conversation, but I know we still have to do this over and over again to keep reiterating and raising more awareness on this. But in a country that we find ourselves here, where there is still a lot of so many old ideas, old principles which have been allowed to go freely, what are your words, please?
Okay, so the first thing is that get trained. So I do a lot of training on this, awareness and skills training. When the employers are trained and when the employees are trained on how to have this difficult conversation without offending the person you're talking to, that's the difficult thing.
Yes.
If you know that I talk and it's going to make the situation worse, nobody is going to say anything. So they need to be trained on how to hold that conversation. And the other thing is, I want to talk to the men. Because right now, our workplaces are still male-dominated. Okay? And this sexual harassment in particular, it's now affecting men as well as women.
Yes.
So women suffer from sexual harassment more than men, about 55% of women from our reports. Okay? But 43% of men also reported experiencing or witnessing sexual harassment. So in the interest of men, it's coming to you too. We're getting more women in positions of power.
Yes.
You're getting all kinds of things going on. Because you allowed it to go on for so long, it is now spreading beyond women to affect even you, men. So in your own self-interest, please protect all of us, in your own self-interest. That's what I'll say. And that if you are trained, make people aware. As I said, most of you are good people, okay? Getting away with bad behavior. It doesn't mean you're bad people. Good people behaving badly. So let's get some training, make you aware of what you are doing, where the line is. People that when they don't like something, they know how to speak up in such a way that you won't feel disrespected and that you can say, okay, let me try something else. And with that, hopefully, and of course, underpinned by the changes in the law.
Yes.
That will help us have better workplaces and really unleash the creativity of these young people, because right now, looking for jobs cannot stay there. We are losing as a country. We are losing. It's a lose proposition for businesses, for organizations, and for our country.
I want to say thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you for deciding to be with us this morning. Hopefully, I'm very hopeful that we will do more of this conversation in the month of April. I'm aware that the month of April is the awareness month against sexual and gender-based sexual harassment month. So we definitely would have you several times in the month of April. So do well to get to hear a lot from my producers.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
As advocates for women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do have a good day.
You too.
All right. This is still the big question on Women Radio WFM 91.7. Do well to be part of the conversation here this morning. We have spoken this morning with regards to harassment and discrimination of women in the workplace. I'm going to be joined in right now in the studio of Women Radio WFM 91.7, and we're going to be looking at another opportunity here, which I want all of us to quickly pay attention to this morning. I have in the studio, I have Kate, an entrepreneur and business coach, a chartered accountant, and a business consultant, coach and expansion, and they are from Property Smart